Well, this is something that we've seen since President Trump came into office, called this network fake news, has referred to the press as the enemy of the people, and so on, is that this is a virus.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Liberal Expression. Let's start things off with a good joke. And a good joke, of course, is MSNBC. An even better joke is when they have guest panelists that claim that the media is biased in favor of Republicans. You know, just because the media is covering Representative Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitic comments.
So it's undoubtedly that the press is acting as if they're agents of the Republican Party right now. That's a part of life. But just one more point here. The Republican Party is focusing on this.
Yeah, Democratic Rep. Max Rose is upset because there's actually coverage of Representative Omar's anti-Semitism. You know, I guess he thinks the media should go back to covering those scary, baby-loving, pro-life teens that are prowling the streets with their MAGA hats.
But this Make America Great Again hat is just as maddening and frustrating and triggering for me to look at as a KKK hood.
Okay, time for another joke of media bias. CNN, Jim Acosta. Yeah, I know, say no more. But the living, breathing punchline of biased journalism took it up a notch this week because he was all so sensitive after the Brazilian president offended him by using the term fake news during a visit to the White House.
Brazil and the United States stand side by side in their efforts to ensure liberties and respect to traditional family lifestyles, respect to God, our Creator, against the gender ideology or the politically correct attitudes, and against fake news.
And you know, this is something that we've seen since President Trump came into office, called this network fake news, has referred to the press as the enemy of the people, and so on, is that this is a virus that is spreading around the world. When you have the president of Brazil calling the press the fake news, he is trying to essentially, you know, in a sycophantic sort of way, suck up to the president of the United States. I mean, there's just no other way of putting it.
Really, Jimmy? Because I remember a few years ago when Brazilian leadership held a press conference at the White House, the sounds of sucking up then were deafening.
Some people are calling your best week ever. Last week, you had two Supreme Court decisions supportive of the Affordable Care Act and of gay rights. You also delivered a speech down in Charleston that was pretty warmly received. It seems that you've built up some political capital for the remaining months of your presidency. I'm curious how you want to use it.
That's what sucking up looks like, Jim. Try not to forget it. Now, something the liberal media networks are trying to forget is the real protection of free speech. You know, the kind that they actually don't agree with, so they don't like it. Which may be the reason that ABC, NBC, and CBS forgot to cover Thursday's signing of an executive order directing the government to take action in protecting free speech on college campuses. They just simply, you know, left it out of their coverage because dissenting opinions to the liberal agenda are not news. Now, pushing a narrative is, like, say, lauding New Zealand's new gun control measures and lamenting that pesky Second Amendment thing that we have here in the States.
And of course, maybe not the same constitutional constraints that they have in New Zealand the way we do with our Second Amendment, but it just demonstrates that in the wake of a tragedy, if there is leadership, political leadership, results and actions can actually be
think
taken.
about the amount of shootings that we have had in this country and the consistency to which these shootings have taken place and how many conversations we have had on air even about the fact that the gun laws need to change, something needs to happen in this country.
Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, she put it plainly. New Zealand acted in 6 days. This country hasn't acted in years. We should note, not only did they act swiftly, this law that was just laid out there, 3 weeks. It's going to go into effect in 3 weeks. Dana, do you see anything changing the equation here?
Why is this so different?
Well, you know, we also have something no other country has, which is the Second Amendment.
Do you ever get the feeling that the liberal media are not big fans of the Bill of Rights? I mean, they hate it when public opinion doesn't follow their best laid plans. This next meltdown is so delicious, you're going to want some dipping sauce.
And there's some new polling out this morning that I do want to ask you about from USA Today showing that a full 50% of Americans, this is stunning, half of Americans agree with President Trump that Robert Mueller's investigation is a witch hunt. This is a shift from the numbers that we've seen in the past. Is that just a reflection of when you hear something from President Trump often enough, people start to buy into it? Half of Americans do not believe in the integrity of Robert Mueller's investigation. And that is creating some questions about the faith that people have in government based on what they're hearing from their leaders.
Also, combine that with the fact that the president has said time and time again that this investigation is going on for way too long.
You have the president and his allies on a daily basis beating up on the investigation, calling it a witch hunt, saying it should have ended sooner, on and on and on.
It's stunning! It's shocking that people would think a 2-year, multi-million-dollar investigation that has turned up no evidence of the Trump campaign, including with Russia, would be considered by some to be a witch hunt. I mean, you know, with all the media coverage, why do the people harbor doubts about this investigation? Liberal media has no clue. Now, before we go, we'll set up the joke of MSNBC once again. We'll ask, what does the liberal media consider a tough question for a Democratic presidential candidate?
New Jersey Senator Cory Booker asked tough questions about President Trump by MSNBC's Chris Matthews.
Is he racist?
He's a guy that...
Is he a racist?
Racist thinks he's racist.
Yeah, tough question. Excuse me, will you call someone from the opposing party a racist? You will? Oh, shock, surprise. All right, that's all the time we have this week. I'm Eric Shiner for MRC-TV. We'll be back with more liberal media wackiness next week.